afternoon, rainy Monday afternoon, and I think the weather's going to get worse. I hope we don't have power outages, but my brother just came in from Charlotte and said the Charlotte airport is now closed, so I think travel is going to be hard. But I am Mayor Sherry Cantor, and I want to welcome you. We decided to do sort of a community conversation about one of the most important things we do is setting our town budget, which is the overall town budget includes a line item for the Board of Education. The town council does not have line item decision making by state statute, but an overall bottom line number to come up with a mill rate that we need to impose on our residents. And just a quick overview. I'm going to introduce the people that are part of this presentation in a couple of minutes. But Connecticut is very, very dependent on property taxes. It's the way it was designed many, many, many years ago. And West Hartford, every town is a little bit different. Some towns have a lot of corporations. Some have may have state property, which is subject to pilot grant. Some might have some kind of different mixture of taxpayers in their community. West Hartford has largely residential taxpayers. The taxpayers in West Hartford pay 90% of our budget, a little less. 90% of our budget comes from property taxes, and 90% of that comes from residential property taxes. Different than Farmington, different than some other communities around us and throughout the state. But we all have a very large funding, was primarily from property taxes. It's a very stable form of funding as opposed to some other states that rely more on sales taxes or some other taxes that are fluid. But Connecticut, by statute, we don't share in any of that revenue, none. So that's a challenge, and year after year, it's becoming more and more of a challenge. And so we have incredible people that try to navigate these challenges and still keep us one of the top communities in the country and the state. And we know that without certain investments, by the feedback that we get, we could not be a top community. And so property values and all that, our quality of life, all of that is impacted by the decisions we have made and the decisions we will continue to make. So we have our superintendent of schools, Paul Vicinis, here. We have Shannon Merriman, who is the Board of Ed chair. Again, remember I said we only have line item. They are the decision makers, the governance of how that money is spent. LaToya Fernandez is also on the Board of Education, and then the deputy mayor is Deb Pullen. And then we have someone that puts all the pieces together and makes our town run every day, our town manager, Rick Ledwith. And a lot of people do think that just a little information. I'm a volunteer. All of our council members are. Mayor is a volunteer position. We get no money. We hire the town manager, and the town manager actually runs the town. We're more of a policy board and we work with our town manager on how we want to implement the town, but he is responsible for how everything runs. So I am going to introduce Shannon and have her say a few words. Talk to the fuzzy mic.
Talking to the fuzzy mic. So good afternoon. As Mayor Cantor said, I'm Shannon Marimone. I'm chairperson of the Board of Education here in West Hartford. Very proud to be in that role. And LaToya and I and our other 5 board members who are not here are very interested in having this information shared as widely as possible so that the community is informed about the decisions being made about the budget, specifically the budget relative to the schools. And we know that that's a significant portion of the budget and also a huge point of pride for West Hartford. And so just want to make sure the community understands what goes into it, how Superintendent Vicinis has thought about the process for proposing the budget, and hear from all of you about questions and suggestions and concerns that you might have relative to that, because that will inform our decision as a board as we go through the next few weeks and move towards a formal approval of the Board of Education budget, which then goes back to the town council for their review. So that's why why these community forums exist, and we're glad that you're here. And please tell others too, because we have 2 more community forums coming up on Wednesday of this week and Monday of next week, and we just really want to hear from the community at large. So thank you for that.
And just to add to Shannon's comments, we by statute have to do 2 public hearings, which we do, and the board has. You have 2 also, right? By statute, but we receive comments, and we felt we weren't getting enough community input, so we established these community conversations to be able to engage the community. So these are in extra. Like, I've been on the council for a long time. We had not done these before. Last year we started it, and we got some meaningful feedback, and I hope that we receive that as well. So now I'll kick it over to our superintendent of schools, Paul Vicinis.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Find a good spot to stand here where I'm not blinded. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. As I said, my name is Paul Vicinis. I've been with the district for just over 30 years. All of my time in education here in West Hartford. I'm very proud to be serving as the superintendent of schools. And I do feel that we have an absolutely exceptional school district, and there are so many metrics that bear that out in terms of a return on investment. I'm here to talk to you about the recommended budget that I put forward to the Board of Education, and that the Board of Education will now be reviewing and considering relative to kind of what's in it, and recognizing that as a Board of Education, we do constitute roughly 60% of the town's overall budget when you look at the town budget. That is not unusual. That is pretty much how it lays out across every community within Connecticut. What is different, as the mayor has already aptly put out, is the amount that is borne through personal taxes, property taxes, in comparison to other communities who may receive a greater amount of state aid or a greater amount of federal aid. By and large, and you'll probably hear this statement from both Rick and from myself, we are people organizations. The salaries and benefits constitute just about 82% of the entirety of this Board of Education budget. And those people translate into programs. They translate into the music and performing arts and visual arts programs for which we are noted, for which we have earned national acclaim. They are translated certainly into the classroom teaching positions that continue to place West Hartford in the top tiers in the country. They're translated into our gifted and talented program, but also the support services that we have for students, whether they're multilingual students, whether they're special education. We have so many programs that are the pride of this district that unquestionably we talk about ourselves as a destination district. In fact, I'm in regular communication with folks from out of state who will look my name up, who will email and ask about the opportunities to move here, and I will plug them in to folks that can help answer those questions. So this year, I think I'll either close with it or mention it here. We have no fewer than 7. I think depending on what you want to call an Educator of the Year, and if it's at a state level or if it's more localized, I could call it 8 or 9. But we have 7 Educators of the Year, State Educators of the Year, just within the last 2 years here on our rolls here within West Hartford. And when you trace backward, we can point to many, many others. We just have an exceptional staff that does everything in support of our educational mission. What drives the budget is certainly the salary line, and there are increases in that salary line. They are market negotiated. The overall, when you put all of the different unions together, so not just the teachers, but school nurses, but cafeteria workers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we're looking at an overall 5.6% increase in the salary line for the coming year. And with that, in addition to that, we also we had a lot of move-ins last summer late in the game, and we had to add, just as an example, we had to add 6 elementary positions after the Board of Education had passed the budget. So we have to make up, that's a part of what that 5.6, I don't want you to think that's a 5.6% raise for everyone. That's a big part of that in terms of what ended up having to go into it. In addition, we're contending with very significant increases within our medical benefits, within our insurance. And that's happening across the state. Historically, more than 10 years ago, West Hartford was self-insured. A long time ago, we moved to the state partnership program. And that, for the Board of Education, that's been exceptional. We've had year over year very significant savings. But this year, across the board, whether you're self-insured or whether you're part of the state plan, you're seeing very significant increases. Our initial budget was based on a 12.5% increase for that. I do believe we have an updated estimate that will be going, that we were recently given by the plan that's going to reduce that slightly. But that's the volume of increase that we're seeing. And I have colleagues in other districts that are self-insured that are seeing 20-25% increases in their insurance lines. So it's pretty significant. What I'm hoping for this year, knowing kind of where those two very significant drivers are and how high they are, is I propose to the Board of Education a maintenance budget, which is to say, I'm not trying to add anything new. There are quite a number of initiatives that we are very interested in, that I understand the community is very interested in terms of an expansion of pre-K and other such things. And we've looked at it and just said, with the insurance kind of coming on top of some increases that I'll talk about with transportation and some other things, it wasn't a year to try to do it. So I'm looking to essentially preserve the programming that we have. I have a very modest cut of 2.6 positions overall across the district. And that comes on the heels of eliminating 20 positions over the last 2 years. And that was not cuts to programs, those were efficiencies, and those were not the positions under ESSER. That's at least another 25 positions when we had the funds under ESSER that were temporary and we've since let go of. So we have cut things very, very lean, and what's being offered is essentially in preservation of the programming that we have. As I said, that's 80%. Out of district tuition and transportation are other significant drivers that really increase to our budget. Last year, the whole story that we were talking about with the community, with the board, with the town, was in and around out of district tuition. There were very significant increases. There was a dramatic shortfall in funding at the state level. And at the 11th hour, our legislators, and specifically our West Hartford legislators, did the hard work and passed a resolution to support additional funds, not only to West Hartford, but to the state as a whole. We've been doing very significant work to bring students back to our district, talking with our parents, talking about the programming that we can provide. So I'm glad to say that we have flat costs in out-of-district tuition. That's based on returning, I have to look at my notes, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 or more students back from an out-of-district placement for very specialized programming based on the skills that they've attained and programming expansions that we've had to be able to serve them here. Unfortunately, it's not a cost savings. All that it's done is kind of staved off what are spiraling costs in out-of-district tuition. And where we are with our state funding, we're pretty good right now. We expect to get about 67% reimbursement for excess costs over the state threshold. That's still a shortfall from fully funding that to 100% cost. That's what's kind of expected, what everyone would want. The state's never been there. Historically, they were up to 80%, and if they could get back to 80%, that would be amazing. But we truly and honestly don't anticipate that. So our out-of-district costs last year to this year are flat. Our transportation costs will add roughly $1 million, just under $1 million to the budget. And that's based on new contractual rates and is driven significantly by, I think the metric was, I'm forgetting just from the last meeting, some out-of-district, when we have to transport students, we are legally required to transport students to out-of-district placements, that adds to the cost. In light of this, we do utilize regional busing routes. That's something that we have been doing and that we continue to explore to see how we can expand upon it. And another significant change that we're making within this budget, pending approval from our Board of Education, is to offer in-district seats to our intensive behavioral program at out-of-district tuition rate for surrounding districts. We feel that we can do that because we do see that we will have some reductions and some seats open. So rather than look to necessarily uproot a lot of students and transfer them, which can be perceived as a hardship on families, we can offer a number of seats, still provide all of our same service and not have any fear of overcrowding, and offer those up as a tuition basis for other districts, especially smaller surrounding districts that don't have the ability to program for the very rich array of special education programming that we offer. Programming needs is the last driver, and this is actually a very relatively small driver based on the fact that it's a maintenance budget. Our programming needs, any new positions that we're adding are mainly within special education, but they're offsets by other cuts that we're able to make with some lower class enrollment at our high school level. So overall, while I am adding some positions to the special education, there's a net decrease of 2.6 positions overall, as I've mentioned. I am seeking to preserve our existing programming and our existing class size guidelines, as that was a very hot topic of feedback from parents last year. Parents actually came out and asked the Board of Education to look closely to see if we could reduce class sizes. And that's another change that I know there's a lot of interest around, but not one that I was proposing in this budget given the costs. There are some modest adjustments that I am making to support students with needs, to include an increase of a half-time counseling position at Bristow Middle School, and a change to the supervision model for our multilingual learners, our ESOL population, which has been growing here in the district. What I share with this, what I believe is up on the screen, the return on investment for our programming really is, as was mentioned, nationally lauded programs. Our high schools are an easy example to point to because they rest on the foundation of our elementary and our middle. Our high schools are continuously ranking in the top 2 to 3% nationally, and they've earned gold status with the College Board since the creation of that recognition 2 years ago. In addition, we're opening up our pathways for career and technical education, and we have a stated goal to become a leader in not only in the state but in the country in terms of computer science education. The summary, we are operating this year with an operating budget of just over $214 million. The roll forward, when you account for the salaried increases, the increases in our insurance costs, the increase in transportation is roughly $14 million. I have, as I said, even with a net decrease of 2.6 positions, there's some pieces in there that make a very modest add of just under 63,000 for a recommended increase of 14 million or 6.6%. So that is the state of the education budget. I'd ask if you have some questions to hold them, and I'll let Mr. Ledwith get through his presentation, and then I will be happy to open up to discussion.
Can I grab your microphone?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to our partners at WHCI TV for televising today's community conversation. As the mayor alluded to, this is our opportunity to engage with our residents in a back and forth on what is one of the most important things that our Board of Education and Town Council and us as a leadership team, both on the schools and the town, do on an annual basis, and that is adopt a budget, work on a budget that allows us to continue to deliver the services that we do to our town. Very exceptional, high-level services that we provide both on the town side and the school side. As Paul alluded to from the school perspective, and you can see on the bottom of our slide here in terms of return on investment, some of the accolades that we've received and we continue to receive year after year that makes us an exceptional community. And most recently, the U.S. News and World Report announced that we were the number 19 community to live in the United States. Number 1 in Connecticut, number 1 in the Northeast. Niche has elected us to be the best place to live in Connecticut for the 8th straight year. And ARP most recently announced that West Hartford was the most livable community in the state of Connecticut. Among, as I said, many things that Paul alluded to in his presentation as well. So we are proud of those accomplishments, but that's something that we work on with our town council, with our Board of Education, with our team, and with our residents to ensure that we continue to deliver the high level of services that our community is expecting. And with that, and this is the time of year, and it's not something that we just start working on as we start approaching budget season. This is something that Paul and I will engage in conversations throughout the year. For both sides, it's a process that starts in the fall and continues right up until we present those budgets in March. So Paul presented his budget 2 weeks ago. The Board of Ed will send that budget to myself, and then I roll that budget into our budget presentation to the town council, which we did last Tuesday evening. So, and very similar to Paul, we have a few different drivers that are impacting our budget this year. We have salaries, as Paul alluded to as well, and benefits. And I mentioned specifically healthcare, the Connecticut State Partnerships Plan. So on the salary side, our salary line item number is at 2.8%. And that is a combination of all of our bargaining units. As Paul had said, we negotiate salaries and benefits we have 22 bargaining units between the town and the schools. And we negotiate those salary and benefits every 3 to 4 years with those groups. And that number that Paul has presented and that I have presented have been negotiated with our employees. And we couldn't amend that number right now, so that number is a pretty firm number in terms of that salary increase. The only way we could impact that number if we wanted to reduce it would be to reduce the staff that are delivering services in town. And Paul talked about healthcare. I want to talk a little bit more about this because it's one of those things, and as Paul said, we're a people-based business, so and we'll talk about some different ideas that in terms of how we deliver services to the town that could save us money in the future. But this is one area that we've done, and I'll talk a little bit about our pension plan as well, that we've done over the last couple of years to save our residents and our taxpayers. And we joined the partnership plan, as Paul said, about 8 years ago. At that time, we saved $3 million combined between the town and the school district when we made that change. So the year we did that, we reduced our healthcare costs by $3 million by joining the Connecticut State Partnership Plan. And that's a plan that allows cities and towns in the state to join the state plan. So there's about 100 of the 169 cities and towns in the state, about 100 participate in the state partnership plan. So what we do, why we did that, was to take advantage of economies of scale and potentially save, like we did when we joined that, save $3 million by joining that plan. Over the first few years, we continued to see great experience in that partnership plan, and our costs rose very incrementally. I think one year we had an actual reduction, another year we had like a 1% increase. Last year we had a 9.4% increase, and this year we had a proposed 12.5% increase that they've now reduced to 11.5%. So haven't been particularly happy over the last 2 years in terms of that increase in the state partnership plan, but we're hopeful that by continuing to participate that we will continue to see those economies of scale work in our favor as we move forward. But certainly, if this becomes something that we're going to be concerned about in out years, like we're seeing the last 2 years, then we'll have to potentially pivot away from that state partnership plan in the future. Overall, our overall increase over the last 8 years has been 5.5%, and that includes this year's 11.5% and last year's 9%. So healthcare trend has been a little above that during that time period. This year, I think anyone who's has insurance in the private sector, you're seeing those kinds of increases. This year, we're seeing 9 to 10% increases in healthcare costs this year nationally. So it's certainly having an impact on us as well. So the other two budget drivers on the town side are operating expenses and capital financing. So on the operating expense side, our overall increase is 4.8%, about $1.4 million. $1.1 million of that 1.4 is attributed to our waste management. So as folks may remember, we had been with Payne's Recycling for many years, and then Payne's last year, right around this time actually, sold their business to All American Waste. So we had a contract with Payne's that was recognized by All American Waste. That contract is up on September 30th of this year, of 2026. And based on conversations that we've had with All American Waste, we can expect roughly a 25 to 30% increase in our cost to collect waste and transport it out of town to have it taken care of outside of West Hartford. So we are actually, as we speak, going out to bid. So that's what we're expecting now. That's what we had to put in the budget. But we're working with that RFP process between now and hopefully by the end of April. By the time the council adopts the final budget, we will have a better number to work with than that $1.1 million. So we're working hard to get that number down, either working directly with our current vendor or through the RFP process, identifying another vendor that we can work with as we move forward. So in capital financing, we have we all live here, we have very large infrastructure in town. We have 217 miles of roads, 300 miles of sidewalks, acreage of parks, and 2.6 million square feet of building space. So very large infrastructure that we maintain. And we have a capital improvement plan, a CIP plan, that's responsible for helping us fund and maintain that infrastructure. So we're going to spend about $570 million on that infrastructure over the next 12 years. This year, our capital financing went up by about $3 million, and that's not on things that we've identified that we need to put into our CIP plan for tomorrow. It's for things that we've already bonded for. So every year, the town issues $15 million on general obligation bonds, and we use those bonds and our AAA rated status to get the lowest interest rate possible to utilize the CIP plan for us to help us maintain our infrastructure as we move forward. So, and I mentioned that AAA rated status. That's another thing, one of the many things we do exceptionally well here in West Hartford that lead to some of those accolades that I talked about earlier. We've been a AAA rated community for as long as I can remember, Mayor. I think it goes back 50, 60 years now. But it allows, as I said, allows us to borrow money, bond for our infrastructure at the lowest possible interest rate for both the town and our residents. Our grand list growth, I know we've talked and you've probably seen a lot of the approved developments that are coming up around town. Those will lead to grand list growth as we move forward. Last year, our grand list increased by $60 million. This year, it's increasing by $81.5 million, which is very strong. But it will increase even more next year because all those apartment buildings that we've, and affordable housing developments that we've talked about and that the council's voted on over the last couple of years, those are all in the process of being built, like, for example, right over here at the UConn campus. So once those developments come online, folks are living there, that's where we'll really start to see that grand list growth over the next year or two. I talked about one of those things, the state partnership plan was one example. This is another example of us taking a look at, as I said, we're a people-based business. Anything we can do to impact the way our salaries and benefits or our healthcare impact our budget, things that we can do to mitigate that, we are more than willing to do. And this is an example of something that we did back in 2021. In our pension plan back in the valuation in 2020 leading into 21, the cost of us delivering our pension benefits to our employees had a budget impact of $26 million at that point. And it was rising by $1.5–2 million every single year. And today that number stands at $10.5 million. We were able to reduce that actuarial annual cost by $15 million by taking advantage of our AAA rated status, issuing pension obligation bonds, and using that lower interest rate to lower our pension plan requirements on an annual basis. So, and while also increasing our funding status. So our funding status back in 2021 was 40%. Today it stands at above 90%. And as I said, our annual cost to our residents and to our budget reduced by $15 million. So, and then all of the things that we've talked about in terms of the services, our high-performing schools, the accolades that we receive, those are having a direct impact, we believe, on our values of our homes. As the mayor said, most of our budget is received in taxes from our residents, more so than our commercial properties. And last year, when we were delivering the same community conversation presentation, our values last year, and this is coming off the 2022 revaluation that we all went through, our values were up 35% this time last year. Today, as we stand here, they are up another 10%. It's up 45%. So we are also going through a revaluation next year, and that will certainly have an impact on the value of our community overall. So, I think the services, as I said, that we provide our school district really enhance the value of one of our most important assets as residents, and that is our home. So overall, we have a 6.6% increase in expenditures, 4.8% on the town, a little bit less than 7% on the schools, 16.4% on capital. We are, at this point, our budget that was presented last week would call for a 2.91 mil increase, or 6.5%, and there would be no increase in our motor vehicle mill rate of 32.46. That's statutorily driven. But just to quickly close out this presentation, then turn it over to our residents here. This is really about hearing from our residents. The Board of Education, as our chairperson said, the board will adopt on March 31st, and then the town council will adopt in late April. But we are going to use these conversations as well as our public hearing process to hear from our residents and look for ways that we can continue to mitigate the impact that this increase would have on our residents. So thank you. Mayor, do you want to say a few things before we turn it over to everyone?
So as this budget, the number will come down. I don't know how much. It won't be as much as we want, for sure. But we have to really talk about and be honest about what those decisions of decreasing the budget is. If we left the budget the same, what does that mean for our community? And how does it work with our labor contracts? We actually are required to reduce part-time workers first before we go to full-paid workers. So there's a very big impact on some of the facilities that we might use most. For instance, the senior center, and then we have to provide specific numbers. It's nice to say, let's reduce it by 10% across the board. Well, some areas we can, and some areas we can't do that. And then what does that mean? Is that, how many police officers is that? And how many public works workers is that? And how does that impact, the services that we provide? On the town side, I just do want to be public works. I'm sorry, public safety is the primary driver between the. We don't have a pie up, but between those two pieces, it's. What? Public safety and public works make up. What is it? 80%.
9.4% of the town budget.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, all right. But anyway, we want to get to you, so we'll start with you.
No, the first question I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the superintendent said the budget is what? The education is 60%.
We want to make sure that your question are heard on the WHCI, if that's okay. So you have to speak into this. Or is that, that mic's good? Okay. Okay, sorry.
Education is 60%, correct?
60 total budget.
Town budget.
So what is the police then? Of the 100% then?
9.4 of,
8.2 for the schools, 9.4 for public safety, that's police and fire. And public works is 4.1%, 16.2.
could you hit 4.1? Yeah.
Over any questions and answers?
Let me go here and then I'll go over there.
I understand budgets, but the mill rate is based on how much tax the property we have in town. Are there a lot of tax abatements for these new properties going in, or are they all being taxed fully?
Question. So, you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So all of the, so we have 2 affordable housing developments that were approved that are part of an agreement that we have with the West Hartford Housing Authority. So there's one right here on North Main Street, 1244 North Main, and then another one on Farmington Avenue, the old West Hartford Inn, which has been converted to the Camelot. And then, but those we do receive taxes, but they're at a lower rate because it's affordable housing. So for Yukon, for example, which is a very large development that was approved this past year, there are no tax abatements on the Yukon property. There's some development in the center. There's a condominium complex and a new apartment building, no tax abatement there. 950 Troutbrook, which is the old Science Center, which is going to be 1 West Hartford, no tax abatements there. So generally, across the board, 90+% of the approvals have not involved any kind of tax abatement. It will, yeah, significantly. So next year's mill rate, we will be here in this room, hopefully again, talking about a mill rate that's down in the 30s, yeah, from where it is today.
Can we drop the motor vehicle, or do we have to keep it at 32?
We have to, well, for what, yes, we do have the ability to change that, but we couldn't make our budget work by decreasing it. Yeah.
So it's good to hear that the larger apartments don't have abatement. However, how much is the budget affected by the increase of inhabitants, of people who are going to live there, the increase of car traffic? Our traffic is not set up for that many more people. What are you going to do about that, and how does that affect the budget?
Question. So all of those decisions, or whenever the council approves a development, there's a requirement that a traffic study is presented to the council prior to signing off on any kind of development. So those are all factored while we're making those decisions. We don't believe that the increase in the number of folks that will be living in these developments will impact our services directly, at least initially. That's certainly something that we can evaluate as they come online. They're in the process of being built, so we do have a couple that are up and running and haven't seen an impact both on the town side or on the school side as well. But that is something that we'll continue to monitor, and as they do come online and we're experiencing that impact on our services, that would be something certainly we would have a conversation with our council.
Thank you, and that's a really good question, and we do talk about, sometimes developers will actually pay for a public improvement to a light, to a road, to make sure that it flows better after, even to some other infrastructure. So we do that. I will say that West Hartford has had higher population. I know when I was growing up here, we had about 70,000 people in West Hartford. We're at 64,000 now. So we're with all the apartments, we have 1,100 apartments coming online, and so we expect that we'll see a few thousand more people, but we're not building homes where there's going to be, lots of, big families, and it is different. So.
1,100 apartments means 2,200 cars on the road additional.
So, and that's an excellent point. And again, it's something that we'll continue to monitor. And, there's a couple things I'll mention with that. So we do have a Vision Zero action plan, which I hope folks are aware of now. So we're spending a lot of effort in terms of keeping our streets safer. And as we grow, we'll continue to do that as well. So with that addition of cars in our community, we will want to make sure that we maintain a safe environment when folks are moving through town. Some of the projects that we've talked about are, in the center, like 950 Trout Brook, which is 1 West Hartford. We're hoping that, and one of the reasons a developer wanted to make a investment in West Hartford was because of the access to the center. So that particular building will have access to grocery stores, to the movie theaters, to restaurants, to our library. So, and we have 2 other developments right around the center as well. So we're hoping people will take advantage of walking places. We have the new development right here at the Yukon property, which is part of our Trout Brook Trail, which is a very popular and becoming more popular park here in town all winter long. As cold as it was this winter, that trail was being accessed every single day by bikers and pedestrians. And we're hoping, again, that with the new development, people will take that opportunity to walk to the center or walk here to Bishop's Corner, not necessarily get in and out of their car every single day and drive on our streets. But we'll continue to monitor that. We're very hopeful that will happen. It's why why these developers wanted to invest in our town. They do. Yep. They're both all on public transportation lines as well. So.
Underused, but it's also, you have to wait an hour.
Yeah. Good points. We'll continue to monitor. And
the other question I have is, does West Hartford still offer double pensions for people?
So we do not offer.
People work in one capacity until they make their pension, work in another capacity and make another pension. Is that still occurring?
That is not occurring here in town. It never has. I've been working here for 25 years, and I'm not aware of anyone collecting 2 pensions from. Some people do come here from other communities who collect a pension from another community, then can come here and earn enough service to earn a pension here. But we all, and I sit on the pension board and the mayors in our pension board meetings we had one this morning, as a matter of fact. So I'm not aware of anyone who's receiving 2 pensions from the town of West Hartford. So, and the teachers participate in the state teachers retirement system, so they're not part of our pension plan.
Okay. And do police officers receive a pension over their overtime?
Great question. So we have several tiers of benefits that we've now negotiated with all of our employees, all of our bargaining units. The police and fire are our 2 larger ones, as folks know. So we have eliminated overtime as a function of a police officer's pension or a firefighter's pension for folks that have been hired after certain years. So right now, over half of our police department and half of our fire department are covered under that new plan that does not factor overtime into their pensions.
Hi, thank you for being here today and allowing us to ask important questions that affect us living in town. I was relieved to hear that hopefully next year when we gather, the mill rate will be in the 30s, because since I've lived here since 1997, I've seen it go up. And we were always told the parking garages will bring it down. This will bring it down. Another thing will bring it down. I just don't see it coming down. I also am very concerned about seniors on a fixed income and what the town can do to keep taxes for them. For instance, I know the STAR program, you all can't vote on that. I was in touch with Larson's office, and they're looking into it. But I think there should be a benefit for seniors. The STAR program, you're 65, you live in town, you own your own house, you no longer have children in the school system. You pay school tax, but you pay it at a reduced rate. And I really think that's something that you that have contact with Congress, Senate, et cetera, should really discuss to help that population.
We do, and we will, yeah. What makes West Hartford what it is what we represent to every single one of our residents. And we want, we have a lot of families here, we have younger families, and we have folks who we have our senior population as well. We want to keep everyone here in town as long as they want to be here. That's what makes West Hartford unique and special, and something our council and our Board of Education will always be focused on as well. So, and we do have some programs available to seniors locally. Happy to put anyone in touch with our assessment offices. Correct, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
This is a question for you, Paul. What is we've been talking about this a little bit, the student population. Is it increasing, decreasing? What are you guys planning?
So the student population has actually shown some decrease over the last 5 years. When you look historically, we're projected to be just over 9,000 students for next year. If you go back 5 years or so, that's actually down from 10,000. The elementary, we're looking at stable enrollment for the coming year. So where we're seeing the reduction coming up, middle school will actually be up a fair number of students. And then our high schools, we're looking that they will likely be down somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 students from the adopted budget, I believe. Long-term and things, yeah, I was going to squeeze that in. So right now, we are projecting, some potential increase, but not dramatic increase with all of the different housing units that are coming online. We're looking at that closely. My director of finance just had a meeting with counterparts on the town side and the planner's office. They look at things like the number of bedrooms. There's a lot of 1 or 2 bedrooms, and they look at the price point for that to try to have an understanding of whether or not that's bringing in a lot of families. And I think, as the mayor kind of pointed out, if there were a larger turnover in the housing market, that's really where we see the impact on the school side. But we have 2 projections. We're actually going to be presenting our enrollment projection report, I think tomorrow evening at the upcoming board meeting. And we always run a conservative and a more perhaps aggressive type of enrollment projection. But right now, based on what we're being told, we think that the impact will be more conservative. Other questions?
Any other questions?
Oh, one in the back.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, thank you. So I just want to thank everybody for your time and your service to the community. I'm really grateful for it. I'm a parent of an elementary school age child, and so this might be a pretty narrow question, but I moved here from New York, and we were looking at suburbs between New York and Chicago, and came here for the value and all the wonderful things that we're receiving. So thank you. I'm particularly curious about the child nutrition program and the investment around child nutrition. I understand almost a third of the students in our district are free and reduced. I also understand that there's, sort of various issues with labor and procurement and things like that. And I'm just wondering if you can speak more about the role of the child nutrition program in the budget, different federal challenges that we're facing around funding it, and if there are any opportunities to support improvements in the options available to our children. Thank you. It is, I understand. Thank you.
So there is a role in terms of the overall budget for the percentage of students that, percentage of families that qualify for free and reduced lunch. And that has to do with both ECS funding and some other things. So, but that said, our nutrition budget itself lives outside of our Board of Education general fund budget. So there's not a dramatic direct impact to this percent. There are state level grants and there's federal level funding. What I can say is for certain, the menus that we provide and the options that are provided do meet all of the statutory federal guidance necessary. But we have a growing interest in town. We have had relative to, what are some other opportunities? Let's talk about farm to school and things of this nature. And I know there's been a lot of interest and motivation around it. So in my nutrition department, the manager has just created not a new position, an additional duty. Took someone and we worked it out. We said we can fund this through their budget without any impact to the general budget to be able to give them a stipend to kind of be keyed in on the whole farm to school type movement. And I know there's been at least one meeting with that team and a group of parents. I believe the meeting may have already happened, but I haven't gotten the full kind of download. And they were kind of on a listening tour for the moment so that they can develop. We have taken advantage of some of the state grants that are available in the past, and we do have a couple of individual things happening in pockets, but we're equally interested to know what are the different pieces that we might make more systematic in the district. So great question. I'd be happy to follow up with more if you have more specific questions. I might have to research to get you answers, but I can get you those answers. Other questions?
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on 15-minute cities and if West Hartford is on that path.
15-minute city?
Yes, I'm sure if you're in the city, you know what a 15-minute city is, where vehicles are more restricted and walking and bicycling is promoted, and apartments versus houses, individual houses, that's what a 15-minute city is.
Okay.
And it seems like a lot of the infrastructure that's happening here is sort of headed in that direction, with the bicycle paths, which, the winters are bad. People aren't going to give up their vehicles for bicycle paths. So to me, that's what I'm seeing is a 15-minute city development.
So that's, we could do some research on the specifics of the 15-minute city, but listening to your just general overview of it, I would say a lot of what we're doing today is to promote more accessible access townwide. So that's folks, I mentioned our 217 miles of streets, so we redo 10 miles of those streets every single year as part of our capital improvement program. And with that, we're expanding our bicycle network with that. So we are becoming a much more accessible community from a bicycle standpoint, and we will do the same thing. And we want obviously our pedestrians to take full advantage of that access as well. So we are adding our first protected bike lane in West Hartford this coming up year. We're redoing New Park Avenue. We have a road diet similar to what we did on North Main Street a couple of years ago, where we're going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with the center left-hand lane with a protected cycle track on the west side of New Park Avenue that will allow folks protected access on a bicycle along that. You know, as anyone who's been down in that part of town, it can be a very busy part of town. So the road diet will slow people down while also adding that bicycle feature for folks as well. So we'll continue to look at that townwide. Like I said, anytime we're redoing a street, we're adding a bike lane to that process.
I'm not sure in this type of weather that a bike lane is all that important, and people have families. They can't exactly transport their families on bike lanes. So I'm thinking that bike lanes are not really going to be used that much, especially during the winter. Who's going to use a bike lane?
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many phone calls I got this winter. It's been the worst winter we've had in, obviously 5, 6, 7 years. But probably I heard a lot of complaints about, we had a lot of changes, like I mentioned, in our bicycle infrastructure townwide. And as part of our Vision Zero efforts, we've added a lot of curb extensions to our corners so folks can get safely across the street in a shorter amount of time and distance. We have pedestrian refuge islands townwide as well. So with all of that infrastructure change that we've added to our system this year, there were a lot of complaints because of the large amounts of snow that we weren't able to get to those infrastructures to clean it out as quickly as we could. Our focus was on maintaining our streets, and then Public Works would get out there, within 2 or 3 days of a snowstorm. But you'd be surprised how many folks did complain about the fact that that access was somewhat limited because of the snowstorms. And I, on the other hand, received a lot of compliments throughout the winter as well for our maintenance of Trout Brook Trail. Trout Brook Trail became part of our street infrastructure from a cleaning standpoint. So our Public Works team was out there maintaining that trail all winter long right after the storm, and received a lot of compliments at maintaining that access for our residents.
I just want to add that our streets, as we had said, we have close to 220 miles of streets. Our Public Works Department worked so hard and so well on cleaning streets for all users, mainly cars, our roads, making sure that they were passable and safe. And that is a very, I received many calls from people from other towns saying, when I got to West Hartford, I saw a difference. It was safer, the roads were cleaner, and it was different than being in Hartford, Newington, and Bloomfield. And those are some of the specific feedback that I did receive from residents that either work there, or live here, whatever. And so and I'm sure, every road can be different at times, and we have had feedback as well. But there's a real commitment to make our streets safe, and that is an investment in our Public Works Department that we don't take lightly, and we know it makes our community safer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just a quick question, since you were talking about Trout Brook Trail, which, by the way, I love. When is that section by Yukon going to be resurfaced? Because it's dangerous for us on bicycles.
So the developer, we don't own the property, but as part of this approval process, our town council ensured that the developer would pay for the extension from Asylum through the campus heading north. So that will be done. We're in the process of redoing some of the infrastructure from a stormwater management perspective. So I'm not sure it'll be done this year. I'll find out, and I'll get your name afterwards, and I'll shoot you an email. So we want to do it as quickly as we possibly can, but we do have to do working with the state now to to do a couple of changes to our stormwater system as it moves through that campus. So we're also working with University of St. Joe's to provide access from the campus to Trout Brook Trail as well. So we're working on a pathway coming from inside the campus, through the campus, out onto Asylum and to the corner. And President Free was very excited about that potential of adding USJ to the Trout Brook Trail system and providing our students with access to that trail as well.
Yeah, and unlike most of my friends, I really do like the Rotary on KP. It has significantly improved the traffic there because you don't have to stop of course, if the Rotary is empty, so you can always go. I think it's a great idea. I would love to see it in many more places because I think a Rotary is just a better traffic structure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it might be the most famous roundabout in the country. We got a lot of news on that roundabout when we put it in. It seems some of us weren't quite sure how to navigate the roundabout. But to your point, it has reduced. So we've monitored speed along that corridor, and our speed reduced from an average of 42 miles an hour to 29 miles an hour on that corridor of King Philip. So it's successful, and we're looking to do that as part of our Vision Zero efforts, adding a couple more around town. I think we're all used to it now based on our experience on this particular one, so we're ready. Thank you.
I probably have a question for you or the people on the Board of Education, Town Council. As a taxpayer, I think the increase of 6.5% is more than the taxpayers can afford. And I'd like to know if there's any possibilities that you can cut that down.
Thank you. It's 6.6% as it stands right now, and we are going to look at ways we can cut that down. And again, we can look at a variety of things, but it will be a joint discussion. Obviously, the board is of the lion's share of the budget at 58%, and so there would need on the town side we can cut some, and we have revenue actually that we are hoping to be able to project and use, but. It's a high budget this year, and so we all pay taxes, and we're all really struggling with this property tax. I will say, on my way here, I was on the phone with one of our state representatives, talking about the fact that this property tax structure is onerous on our population, and it is onerous on all people. I have a 97-year-old mother. I am 66. I have a 37-year-old son and two grandchildren. And I've seen the difficulty in buying a house, how hard it is and how expensive it is for new families to come in and pay for these elevated house prices and what their tax bills are. And I have, from my own perspective, and my mom being on a fixed income, I see it, I feel it, and it's broken. And we need other sources of revenue to be able to be a successful community. I mean, we feel as though, and we've tried, and it's been recognized that we are doing the things that we should as a community do. We are investing in affordable housing. And as you heard, that is the one area that has a tax break, affordable housing, because the finances can't work without some support from the community. And we are investing in safer streets, and we're investing in a highly diverse education so that all of our students can succeed. And we are, across the board, we are a community that people, when they move here, and I just went to two new CEOs that moved into the region, both chose West Hartford to live because of the quality of life of this community. And that does not weigh lightly on me. There are a lot of wonderful places to live. So I did speak with we have been asking for our education cost sharing grant to be adjusted for inflation. Has not been adjusted in 10 years, 12 Okay, so 13 years. 13 years has not been adjusted. Do you think teacher salaries have gone up since then? Do you think costs of heating the buildings have gone up since then? Of course they have, and so we keep falling behind. The same thing with our special education costs have risen, as Paul said. We are now reimbursed at 67% by the state, not 80% the way we used to be reimbursed. And so, again, costs continue to rise. On the town side, the same thing with our public safety, public works. It's very hard to find people. It's really hard to find, especially the cream of the crop. You have to pay them. And so the salaries go up because that's what they, contractual obligations. And if we don't raise our contractual obligations, our police, our fire are going to go to another community that will. And so, we have all these things. So we had asked for some other revenue streams. And I just was speaking with our state rep about a restaurant tax. About 5 years ago, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities got together and they have been talking about this over-reliance on property taxes in Connecticut. And they said, well, at least a community that has restaurants provides infrastructure. They provide public safety, they provide parking, they provide public works, investment. So we're going to impose a 1% tax, and it's going to go back to the municipalities where that originated. Well, that was a great idea, but it got swept into the state budget. The municipalities got nothing, and the state over these last 5 years has $500 million sitting in their rainy day fund, and we have received nothing. And so that's been a really frustrating. So I said, can we go back? Last year I had a press conference on it. I worked with our senator. I've worked with the Connecticut Restaurant Association. Now it's projected to go into the tourism budget. It was supposed to be then split between tourism and then the municipalities, and now it's all going to tourism. So Again, a frustrating opportunity. We do have some unique opportunities that the state created. We have we participate in the opioid settlement, so we have some funds coming from that. We have 3 cannabis locations. We have the state provided 3% sales tax, restricted use of what we can do with that funding, and they have allowed, as part of red light, speed, and potentially school bus cameras violations to go with fixed pricing determined by the state, can go to the municipalities for restricted use for road safety. Still no general revenue that offsets the reliance on property taxes. We have to continue to increase and chip away at services all at the same time. And so we will get this budget down. I don't know how much. I don't know whether it will be a smidge or something a little bit bigger. I do know that we are in the worst cycle of the revaluation. We're at the last year before revaluation where the prices, where the values of homes and across the board go up, and we will hit the lowest part probably of the next 5-year cycle of our mill rate. So the way the state mandated revaluation works every 5 years. It used to be 10 years, which was even more dramatic. What I would ask you to do is to talk to the state reps and say, look, when we talk about affordable housing, when we talk about cost of business, property taxes is an important part of that. And all of us, when we go to statewide meetings, we're all struggling with this. I don't know what the common numbers are, but Paul, you had said it was around 7% for education, and 6. No, but the increases you're seeing now in other districts.
7%, 6 to 7% in this general area.
And Greater Hartford is a little bit different because our property values aren't as high as Fairfield County, so the mill rates in Fairfield County are lower, but the tax burdens, the cost of living is very expensive too there. But
I understand the taxes have to go up. It's just that it's double what inflation is.
I know.
I
know.
You understand that. That's all I'm asking. I mean, like,
Right.
I'm not trying to be nosy, but if you, the 6 of you up there, I'm sure you didn't get raises of 6%.
Nope.
So, but that's my point. I mean, I understand it's like, if we can get it down a little bit. But see, if we get if the state doesn't use property tax, we're going to have to pay tax. It's going to have to get paid somehow. It's not going to be free. So if the state says, okay, the state's going to, you can lower your property tax by 50%. They're going to go up on the state income tax or the sales tax. We're still going to get taxed. It's just going to be taxed a different way.
I would rather have had that $500 million sitting in the state surplus. I would rather have had that come to the municipalities and pay for some of our road construction improvements that we were doing in West Hartford Center. We would have used it that way. So it's sitting now in a rainy day fund, which is really good for the state bond rating, but that wasn't the agreement. So I hear you that it is, money's fungible. It's going to come from one place or another. But again, when Massachusetts moved to, Connecticut used to be kind of a little below Massachusetts in property taxes. Massachusetts has gone below with Connecticut. Comparatively, their values have gone up a lot, but comparatively their tax burden has dropped a bit. And why is that? Because they had Proposition 2.5, and what that did was limit the property taxes. So Connecticut tried to do that, but what Massachusetts did while they were doing that, they increased funding for education. They increased funding for road construction. They did some of the things that the state needed to do that they knew were drivers in budgets, and they could maybe control it a little bit. And maybe when you were negotiating contracts, there was an expectation that that's where you would be, that you had this sort of guideline of where you needed to be. Connecticut has said that they're putting a cap of 2.5%, so we don't share in a municipal revenue sharing grant. But they haven't increased. Our costs continue to go up, but no more additional money's coming in. So I'm just saying your voice is important here, but it's also important to talk about the state and whether it's sales tax. It might impact you, but it might also be impacting people that come and visit Connecticut as well. That helps Sharon. I am a big toll person. I don't know why people using our roads don't pay to use our roads. That doesn't make sense to me. Everywhere we go around the world has tolls. It's a user fee. You use the roads, you pay the fee. I don't know why that is so challenging, but I digress.
You said that our health care in West Hartford is part of the state partnership plan. And I guess the last 2 years, I don't know if the figures are correct, 9%, 10%. What are we doing to try to drive health care down? Are we giving incentives to the people, the town workers, like if you get physicals every year, and stay up to date? Are we negotiating with better contracts for pharmacies and stuff? Can you tell us on that?
So one of the reasons we went to the state partnership plan was that very fact that you just mentioned. So within the plan, there are requirements that every individual, both the participant and family members, all have to get physicals, colonoscopies, mammograms. There's a whole host of things, eye exams, dental exams, you name it, that are part of the plan. And that's how they were able to maintain, that's why we were able to save that $3 million when we joined it. So, but what's been happening is medical utilization in pharmacy specifically has increased dramatically over the last 24 months, and that's having an adverse effect on the partnership plan right now. So we have those belts and suspenders built into the plan to help us stay healthier. But we're seeing some other things that need to be addressed. If we were to stay in the plan, we would want the state, because we're part of that plan that they're part of. So if they were to come in and the comptroller would say, all right, we're doing this on the pharmacy side to lower our pharmacy spend, that would have an impact on the benefits for our employees, and we'd have that built-in savings as being part of the plan. So we'll continue to work with the state. And if those types of things aren't on the horizon of potentially happening, then Paul and I will have to sit down and work with our finance teams to look at a change away from the state partnership plan in the future.
Which needs to be negotiated with our union.
And it is all negotiable with our unions. So all 22 bargaining units have that built in. So we'd have to negotiate that change with our unions.
Either one of you. I want to understand the math on the reassessment of the homes and the revaluing and mill rate. Obviously, if you increase the value of the homes, the mill rate is going to go down. But we're still going to pay the same tax because I'm still paying a percentage of how much I have. So if my house goes up 75% and the mill rate goes down 25, I'm still going to pay more.
That's a good point. So your budget, the number is what it is. Our budget is, and I can pull it up right here. It's $390 million between the town and the schools. So that number won't change. The value of property will change. That'll increase quite significantly. So, yeah, yeah.
Different people in different ways,
Exactly.
right? So a larger home might go up at a lesser rate than a lower moderate home might go up, right? And we've seen sort of a shift in that sort of mid-home rate. There's a real need for those homes, and those prices have gone up comparative. I call it the fishbowl. So you have a long, a tank, an aquarium of water like this, and you're just tipping it. And some homes might be going up more than other homes. So one side of the tank's going to be higher. The water's the same. The amount of water is the same. It might shift, but that mill rate will come down. But the projects that we are adding have real grand list growth that will add to the grand list. Your homes, that's why the mill rate is misleading because it depends on the value of your home. You go to a mill rate in Greenwich, and it's a lot less money, but you can't buy a home for under $5 million, right? So, it depends on what that, the value is, right? So real grand list growth is people adding onto their homes, people, adding an addition or, building a new building, redoing, a reuse of something that was, had deteriorated. We are doing those things too. So we're doing all of that, but the home values.
Real savings comes in with that grand list growth outside of the revaluation grand list growth.
But better, also, and there have been times where home values have gone down, right? And so, and mill rates might need to come up, but, so it's this, and there was a time when our mill rate in West Hartford was 70 mills. So there is history.
It could be worse than
in
what
the
you're
60s
saying.
and 70s.
But you've kept on saying residential reval. Our commercial
We do it all at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
So commercial, a $10 million property is going to go up as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not,
Yeah.
right. But we're not going to be, residential is not going to be taking the whole burden on it. So I'm saying.
It takes up a majority of our burden because we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, right, there was a comparative trend in 2022. Residential homes went up a lot more than.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Residential's more in demand, right? People want homes, so they're gonna go up. Look at the
It
prices
is,
of
yeah.
homes in town. How much they've gone up.
But the multifamily residential projects that are coming online, like Yukon, for example, alone is $200 million in grand list growth just for that project, if combined between the two campuses. So the one on Trout Brook is $70 million. So that is where we're, next year we do have the reval, which is complicating because your home is going to go up probably by 50% by next year when we're doing the reval. But we're going to have this grand list growth that we will balance with our council to ensure that our taxpayers are now starting to see that positive impact of that growth. So it'll just be complicated because we have the reval piece here, but we also have the grand list growth associated with our development that's part of that equation, but we will use that to mitigate the impact on the taxpayer. So yeah, the mill rate will drop into the 30s, but your value's going up, so you're paying what you're paying, but we will use this grand list growth over here on the development to lower that impact for our residents.
And you said 200 million for the Yukon?
All in, yeah,
With
both
commercial
sides.
and everything else over
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
Because the grocery store and all that stuff's going to go in there.
correct,
right? Okay.
yeah.
I have a follow-up. Yeah. I can ask questions all day. I'm retired. Okay, since we're going to be adding 200 million for Yukon, when will that go in?
So if you've driven by lately, the 4 apartment buildings on the parking lot side are literally coming out of the ground as we speak. So they have the elevator shafts up on that one building. This time next year, we're hoping that at least one of those buildings will be up and running and rented while the remainder. So they're doing this in stages, but for them, we're working very closely with the developer every single day right now. Time is money for them. Their costs have been increased by all of our costs, right? When we go shopping, whatever we're buying, it's costing more. They're seeing it on the construction side. So they're very eager to get this done as quickly as possible. So I'm hoping next year we'll see even more of our growth attributable to that particular campus. So on the campus side, the main campus side, UConn, University of Connecticut, left us with a little bit of a environmental hazard in those buildings. The mayor was very influential in working with our state to receive a $6 million brownfield grant. So we were the first grant in the state at the $6 million level. So we'll use that grant to mitigate the environmental impact that has. So we are working with the developer right now to start to bring those buildings down. Hopefully you'll see that in the coming weeks. And then they have a couple of properties that have been leased out, so they need to get going on that side as well to talk about the supermarket that'll be on the north end of the campus. They'll be working on that very soon.
When does the property hit the grand list? When the CO is signed?
So the total, it hits us in phases.
Well, I understand,
So,
but
yeah. So once people are living there and the rents are coming into the developer, that's where we get our biggest impact,
Okay.
grand list wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I assume that once that 200 million hits, it's possible that we won't be seeing big increases. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Like this year, for example, we had $80 million. And that's with really nothing, none of the development that we've approved has hit that. That's just it's a good number. It's a strong number for Connecticut. But that was affordable. So, so once we start to see like I said, next year when we're standing here, that $80 million will be a much higher number. 2 years from now, it'll be double that. So we're looking at significant grand list growth over the next 24 months.
So basically, we might have to bite the bullet as taxpayers for this year, and then the years going forward, the increase may not be as large,
Correct. Yeah.
hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, thank you for coming this afternoon, and certainly if you have any other questions, I'll grab your number to talk about the trail when that'll be done. But if you have any questions between now and budget adoption, you can reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to.
And we do.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to add that all of the budget information for the West Hartford Public Schools is on the WHPS.org website. All for the town council is on westhartfordct.gov. So you can literally look at every single line item in the budget. And so it's all very transparent. And we'll be having, yep, there's the binder. And we'll be having lots of committee meetings and, as the mayor indicated, more community forums and public hearings to hear from you.
And if you want to be part of the official record for the budget, there are 2 official budget hearings, March 30th afternoon, 2 o'clock. I think we haven't said it yet.
Thursday we have one in the afternoon.
No, we don't, because that was not noticed.
No, we're still having it.
We are?
We're adding a third.
Oh.
Yeah. So we'll have.
No, that was a special council meeting to set the public hearing because we didn't notice it.
Thursday at 2 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, we will have a public hearing at 2 o'clock. And then, 2 o'clock on Thursday the 19th. And thank you. Tuesday the 24th will be our evening public hearing. And then on the 19th at the public hearing, we'll have a special council meeting following that public hearing where we will add a third public hearing. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but March 30th? Okay, thank you. Wednesday the 25th, the Board of Education will hold a workshop at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. Yeah. Thank you.